This is going to upset a lot of people. Biological woman, not a real thing.
Let me explain why misgendering is an act of violence.
If you're cis and you won't date trans folks, you're a transphobe.
All right, guys, and now it's time to turn to some woke TikToks. And boy, some of them are real doozies. Up first, we've got a nice young man to explain to you silly women that the term biological woman is not a real thing.
This is going to upset a lot of people. Biological woman, not a real thing. Let me explain. So, the term biological in this context means of or pertaining to physical human anatomy and genetics. The term woman is a gender, and we know, in accordance with every modern respected medical society, that gender is socially constructed. So to say biological woman is to conflate physical biology with a social construction, which is an oxymoron, like jumbo shrimp or pretty Republican. When people like the cheese enthusiasts in the video before this say biological woman, they're not trying to use proper terminology. They're trying to make a statement about what it is to be a woman. They're trying to insinuate that gender relies on your physical anatomy, and by extension that trans people aren't real. Cis woman is a great alternative to what you think you're trying to say with biological woman. Another alternative, shutting up forever. Hope this helps.
So there's a lot to unpack there, but for one, it's kind of funny to see a dude explaining to women that a biological woman's not a real thing. Aren't y'all the folks that complain about mansplaining? But a biological woman is very much a real thing. It's called being female, it's called having XX chromosomes, ovaries, and all of that. In 99% or more of cases, there's no difference between sex and gender. They overlap, right? Not a Venn diagram, two circles. Almost everybody who is a female identifies as a woman. So to talk about biology being part of what it is to be a woman or a biological woman is not offensive, right? It's not inaccurate or wrong. It's just true in almost all cases with some exceptions. And that doesn't contradict the existence of transsexual women, right? Biological males with XY chromosomes who identify as women and socially present and transition medically, and power to them. But these things can and do coexist, and your attempt to shame women for having an attachment to their biology, between their biology and their gender, is just not helpful and not scientific or sound. But you're also clearly not actually trying to convince anyone, as your cheap shots at Republicans' looks and your cussing out at people and telling them to shut up, as those make clear. So I won't waste any more time on you. This next one, it's a little creepy, to be honest.
If you're cis and you won't date trans folks, you're a transphobe. Now if that made you mad, maybe it's your prejudices that you need to probe. No matter the reasons you've got, you're reducing us to when we disrobe. And that kind of thinking ain't sophisticated, it's more like microbes. I know you think you've got good reasons, maybe you do. Trauma's real, it's hard to heal, I'd never say that that isn't true. But transphobia's transphobia, and you won't get a pass when we're through.
Oh, is that a threat?
We're human beings, not sex organs, cis lesbians, I'm talking to you.
So, first things first, 1 out of 10 for the musical performance. Do not recommend. But more seriously, right, the reason I so fundamentally object to this, and it's not just one person on TikTok, you see this line of argumentation, unfortunately, frequently on the internet, is because you might not realize it, but in your pursuit of like trans activism or wokeness or whatever, you're actually undercutting the basis for gay acceptance, same-sex attraction. Some people aren't attracted to certain genitalia or biological anatomy. That's what it means to be gay, right? You're not attracted to female anatomy. They can't help or control that, so it's not fair to get mad at them or act like that makes them bigoted or evil. Newsflash to the woke, it's wrong to judge people for sexual attractions they don't choose and can't control. Y'all are literally out here sounding like yesteryear's homophobes and anti-gay Christians right now. There's also just something fundamentally creepy about trying to insist that people have to date you or find you attractive. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who do, so maybe just stick to them and stop trying to force yourself onto others. It's giving me too. This logic, or lack thereof, is just so broken. I mean, I'm gay, so I'm not attracted to women. Does that make me a sexist misogynist? Obviously not, but that's what this twisted thinking, this mental gymnastics would actually imply. I'm just begging trans activists to stop this date me or you're a bigot shtick. It's really cringe, it makes no sense, and it's not helping. Okay, up next, did you guys know that misgendering is violence?
Let me explain why misgendering is an act of violence. I know this sounds extreme, and I know I talk about this a lot, but this is because the situation is extreme. Getting misgendered as a trans and non-binary person not only triggers the trauma of being conditioned into a gender that is not ours, but it also triggers the trauma of existing in a world that at large would prefer we did not exist. So getting misgendered can feel like a smack in the heart. It represents all that we are up against. And yes, mistakes absolutely happen. But let's say you turn a corner and accidentally smack someone across the face. You wouldn't immediately be like, hey look, it was an accident. You would tend to their pain and make sure it doesn't happen again. But then every time you turn that same corner, you continue to smack that person. Yes, it may still be unintentional, but at a certain point, the lack of intention is a choice. So maybe first you have to take in the fact that this causes real harm, and then approach your misstep with the level of awareness and effort that it will take to stop hurting us. I love you.
So, no, it's not. Misgendering is not violence. And frankly, if you actually think that tells me you've never experienced real physical violence, which I'm thankful for, but is really suggesting your ignorance here. To conflate words that hurt your fifis with physical violence is insulting to actual survivors of physical violence. And if words can cause you physical pain like you're saying, that's a you problem. That means you lack the emotional resilience of a functioning adult. And I'm not trying to be mean. That's actually something you should seek help for and work on. But it's on you to do that. It's not on us. And this thinking is really actually pernicious and dangerous, because if you say that mean words you don't like are violence, well, then you can justify violence in response to those words, or even violence to prevent those words from being uttered. And once we go down that path, there's no turning back, and there's no hope for free speech in society once words are conflated with violence, and violence is a response to words that's legitimized. At that point, nobody can speak their mind. You can't have an open exchange of ideas and information, and you no longer have a free society. You have a wild, wild west of physical violence and domination. I don't think this is actually what folks like this want. They really need to reconsider this bonkers approach. All right, up next, it's not a TikTok, but I had to put it in this section because it's just some of the most insane woke shit I've ever seen. We've got a tweet from Just Stop Oil, the climate doomer alarmist activist group. Their tweet says, "New oil and gas is a death sentence for millions of people, and the LGBTQ plus community will be one of the first to suffer. Take action with us at juststopoil.org." And then it shows like a pride-themed Just Stop Oil protest. So first off, new oil and gas is not a death sentence for millions of people. And in fact, the developing world relies on fossil fuels to lift people out of poverty that would actually save millions of lives. So you have no idea what you're talking about. But also, Just Stop Oil is like an eco-terrorist group at this point. I mean, these people are unhinged. They literally, I saw a video of them recently where they blocked a mother who was trying to get her sick child to the hospital. They shut down the road and wouldn't let her pass. That's violence. That's terrorism, and it should be treated as such. I fully support any group, no matter how much I disagree with their crazy agenda. I fully support their right to protest. The right to protest doesn't include the right to violate other people's rights, like their freedom to move and block traffic. So they're crazy and radical, and it's not a surprise to see them pushing crazy and radical things. But this still doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, what? What about being gay or being transgender means you're more vulnerable when the earth gets hotter? I literally racked my brain trying to think how this could make sense, try to put myself in their shoes, and I really struggled. One argument you will hear, and I got this in my environmental justice class in college, is that people on the margins of society are more at risk for environmental harm. So like poor people or in racial minorities, for example, because there's a large racial wealth gap in the US, are more at risk from pollution or natural disasters because they live in more vulnerable areas without the same infrastructure or insurance policies and lots of things. And there's a grain of truth to that, but it certainly doesn't apply to gay and lesbian people. I mean, in many cases, they actually out-earn their straight counterparts in advanced Western nations like the US or I believe the UK. So if anything, climate change might actually hurt straight people more. But in all seriousness, it just doesn't have anything to do with LGBTQ issues. It's ludicrous, but it's just part of this pattern of woke nonsense where they have to make every issue about everything, and then in doing so, they just make it all meaningless and just only do themselves a disservice. Okay, this next unhinged TikTok, it takes place in the medical arena, as this person was very upset with their doctor misgendering them or wanting to know their biological sex, basically.
Understand why in the year 2023 doctors are still forcing their trans patients to sit there and misgender themselves multiple times over and fucking over again to satiate their confusion and curiosity, and how they seem to just not be able to understand how I said I take testosterone because I'm transgender, my body doesn't produce its own, and then later saying how, like, referencing my pregnancy and this and that, and she just didn't get it. Just didn't fucking get it. Just had to, like, really drill it in that she was confused, despite the fact that I said I am transgender. I take testosterone. And then her just be, so how are you pregnant? Do you have a uterus? Do you have this? Do you have that? Are you female? Are you female? Are you female? Do I look female? Anyway, I'm still not any closer to getting the referral that I need for the bronchoscopy to find out about the hole in my lung. But at least my new PCP got me to say that I'm female. So there's the American healthcare system in a nutshell.
So I have some thoughts. First off, all patients, no matter their identity, deserve to be treated with respect and dignity by their doctors. And, you know, in the case of trans adults, I think that means using their preferred pronouns. And I really do hope this person gets whatever medical help they need with whatever issue they've got going on. But the rest of this response is totally unhinged and unreasonable. Yeah, your doctor might be confused about the fact that you're pregnant while being a trans man, because it doesn't make any sense. It is extraordinarily unusual that a trans man, a biological female who identifies as a man, would allow themselves to become pregnant, because that would give them extreme gender dysphoria, you'd think, right? Because that is an inherently female thing, and yet you want to be perceived as a man in society. So that's very unusual. That's not something almost any transgender men do. So yeah, your doctor would be confused. And you are a biological female. You do have XX chromosomes. I don't know why you're mad about admitting that. That doesn't mean you can't be a trans man. But it's actually quite important for your doctor to know what your biological sex is, because there's a wide range of diagnoses and differences in symptoms and outcomes and all sorts of things between people with XX and people with XY. In fact, there have even been cases where patients have died because doctors missed diagnoses because they didn't know the person's actual sex. They thought they were the other sex that they present as, not their biological sex, and so they missed something they otherwise would have caught, and that person died. A doctor actually has an ethical duty to determine your biological sex and find out that you are female so they can treat you and actually take care of you. So don't act outraged or like they're doing something wrong. They're not. You're the one who's being unreasonable.